Hi everyone, I'm Mercedes.
And I'm Kendra, and we are so excited to be chatting with Jason Moore today.
Yes, about everything from his work on Pitch Perfect to his newest J.Lo rom-com action movie. Jason, you'll have to tell us all about it. We're so excited.
I'm excited to
Exactly.
be here. Thanks for
Welcome,
having me.
Jason. Thank you for being here.
Yes. To start it off, we'd love to just hear more about your journey from theater to film and really just your origin story as a director.
hmm
Yeah, sure. I always knew that I wanted to do both theater and film. And so in college, I kind of studied both, ended up getting a degree in neither because I was kind of like trying to pick and choose the things I wanted. I moved out to LA. I was an agent's assistant, realized that wasn't my way in, but I worked for a director named Harold Becker on a movie called City Hall with Al Pacino. And then strangely, a theater job from LA took me to New York. It was a musical called Ragtime, and I was one of the associate directors of it. That brought me to New York, where I started supervising Les Miserables, like the companies of Les Miserables. So casting the replacements and supervising the tour while I was working on new plays and musicals. And then I also simultaneously started directing a lot of the CW shows. Do you remember the CW, like Dawson's Creek and
Of
Everwood?
course.
Yes.
So I directed probably 14 hours of teen drama for that. So that got me some experience behind the camera. And then in 2003, I directed Avenue Q, which was a nice, it got a lot of attention, and that kind of launched that part of my career. And very not too long after that, actually, I was sent a lot of musicals after that, musical movies. But then I read Pitch Perfect, and I was like, this is great. This is like, it's funny. I know what to do with this. Like, I won't be as intimidated because I kind of know about how to do a musical. So the things that I don't know about making a movie, I will learn, but I'll have this other knowledge that others don't have. And then I made Pitch Perfect. And then I felt really lucky to have had things that got attention in both theater and film. And then I've always tried to kind of move both parts of my career at the same time.
That's amazing. I would love to hear about what you feel like the biggest difference is between your work as a director when it comes to theater and when it comes to film.
I think foundationally, I think of it as very much the same, which is like, what is the emotional arc of the story? How do you communicate it? How do you make people laugh? Because hopefully in a movie, you're going to laugh as much as you will in a live theater production.
hmm
Because I like going to movies like that, like a live audience, which is, we've been not been able to do that for a while, but we're getting back to it. But I think the main difference is that all of rehearsing a play, you get to see it in front of you as a director. Like, you see the actors acting it, you feel the moments, and it's all happening simultaneously. But then on a movie set, you're shooting in one direction. You don't see it happen. You have to kind of understand all the pieces. So it's a lot more of a big jigsaw puzzle in your head than rehearsing a play. But I like that part of it, the jigsaw puzzle part, trying to keep track of all the elements to see that they fit together 9 months later when you actually do see it all together.
Yeah. You have to be a problem solver as a director, right? Like your brain just kind of has to work like that.
You have to be a problem solver. You have to be a worst case scenario person,
Uh,
which is great for my work life, but not so great for my personal life.
yeah.
But yeah, you have to think of all the things like, how do I handle this if something goes wrong? Because it always goes wrong somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's something you'd love to share with either your younger self about directing or with any aspiring young directors out there?
That's a great question because there are certain things I wish I had known. I think the thing that always comes to mind is I wish that someone had told me when I was younger, directing doesn't mean you have to have the answer for everything,
Mm,
because that puts a lot of pressure on you. Like, you're supposed to know everybody and everything, every job, and not enough how to communicate with people. But I think as I got more confident, I realized it was so okay to admit what I didn't know. In fact, it was more important to admit what I didn't know so I
mhm.
could hire the right people to help me. And it's a highly collaborative form because you cannot make a movie by yourself. You can't even make a movie with 10 people, and you need at
Right.
least 80. So really kind of I became more relaxed when I realized I could let other people do things better than me, and I didn't have to worry about knowing everything. And that gave me more space to feel creative, actually.
Yeah. And it gives other people more autonomy too, because like I said,
And
I
it's
work-
better, and it's better for it, right? Because they are more talented, they do know better, and when people feel empowered, then you know, I always say, like, best idea wins. I'm going to get credit for it anyway. You always try, and you kind of always, and that's the other thing too. In that situation, you acknowledge where the idea came from. You do not pass it off as your own.
Hmm.
But because that also empowers people to be participatory and to want to contribute as opposed to, well, I'm going to stand over here and tell you tell me what to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm curious too, like what is a moment, big or small, that you feel like upcoming directors shouldn't take for granted when it comes around? Because you do have a lot of those moments in your career.
I mean, I think early career, it's so hard to get people to give you the resources to direct anything, right?
Mm.
Because it's hard as a young director to show people your work because that means someone had to
Yeah.
give you $20,000 at some point or give you enough equipment for free.
Mm.
So to me, it's like direct anytime you can because even if you don't think it's the perfect project or if it's going to break you into something, because the only way to practice it is to do it. There's no theory behind it. And I think I went through a little bit of that at the beginning where I could have gotten more practice and been better when I had my big moments had I just sort of directed almost everything that came my way.
Mm. Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to dive a little more into rom-coms now. That's what
Yes.
we love to talk about.
We love it.
I love to
Yeah.
talk about it too.
So, what elements of a comedy, specifically rom-coms, do you think make something really great or memorable?
I think rom-coms, you have to love the characters, right? Like that's the most fundamental thing. Like you have to love the characters, you have to want them to be together, or you have to love the fact that they fight all the time. Whatever version of the relationship is, there's a lot of different kinds. That also means you need to love the people that populate the rest of the world. So they need to be three-dimensional, interesting, written funny, cast funny actors,
Yep.
and let the comedy come out of the relationship as much as possible. I think if you there then that's not always true, right? Some rom-coms have big concepts on top of it. Palm Springs was a movie I just
Yeah.
rewatched again, and that's a big concept, but it works because the characters work and the comedy comes out of the characters.
Mhm.
Um, and I think also improv. If you have, I was thinking about Bridesmaids is like probably a movie I've seen 40 times,
Same.
and that,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Same.
and again, you just have all of this talent, and you just want to try and capture it. So I think to get a comedy, that's kind of the fundamental thing. Start with your characters and the writing, and then make sure you get the right actors to follow through on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I feel like Rebel Wilson was perfect casting for
Mhm.
Pitch Perfect because Mercedes and I do a section where we go over industry facts, like fun facts about the movie.
Uh-huh.
And we were talking about how Rebel Wilson like improvised like 90% of her lines in this movie. It's
That's
like,
incredible.
yeah.
She is perfect casting. I mean, interestingly, our casting directors had pointed her out right away, and I knew who she was from Bridesmaids.
Hmm.
And when she came in, it was undeniable. Like it was, I think she was the first, or she and Anna Kendrick were the first offers we made because they're such important parts. And the thing about Rebel, she does improv, but you know what? And this won't surprise people now, especially because they've seen that she's written so many things and she has created a little empire for herself, right? She's ambitious. She was a lawyer. She works hard. So it was improv, but I would see her in the corner writing notes down. Like it wasn't an in the moment only. It was a plan and then be funny also in the moment. And I think that's why she comes across one is so genuine because he's able to be in the moment, but also so funny because it wasn't just like throwing 100 jokes against the wall. She can do that also, but she was ambitious about it, and I think that's a quality that made the movie better, made my job better, and I think it also made other people in the movie step up. Like okay,
Yeah.
I want to get some moments. I think it's always good to have a little as a healthy competition between comics
Yep.
because and like supportive in the way that improv is supportive and I'm going to help you help me help you,
100%.
but I think if you can get that, like, okay, bring it, like if you
Yeah.
bring it and it's funny, it'll be in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about what are some classic tropes that you see in rom-coms that you feel like have played out in your personal life?
Oh boy. uh oh boy. That's a great question. Tropes in rom-com. Let's meet cute, not so much. That's not where I am in my life anymore, but I still
Same.
love a good one.
Yeah.
But I love
Totally.
the concept of it. Um, I think I think I think about a movie like Palm Springs just because it's top of mind. I think it's pretty genius, and it is very romantic. But I would say the couples that fight
Yeah.
more or don't get along more at the beginning, that's probably what more of my relationships have been like. And in
Right
that,
there with me.
yeah,
Mercedes.
yeah,
That's
I
Mercedes.
love an enemies to lovers.
because I think, and even if it's not enemies, but it can be. I haven't quite
Mm.
gone to enemies before, but I've ended up at enemies. But
Ooh.
the more you go through together, and the things that you have to figure out together as a couple makes you stronger, right? So if you have some of that stuff at the beginning, it might intensify your relationship more. Whereas if it's all, puppies and rainbows at the beginning, you might not have really gotten to know the person under pressure. And I think that's what makes a good relationship.
Absolutely.
That's so true. I love that.
Yeah.
So now the question we've all been waiting for. What's your favorite rom-com?
Well, I have a lot of them, and they're all different kinds, because I think well, I mentioned two of them already, Bridesmaids, Palm Springs.
Mm.
I mean, When Harry Met Sally is such an obvious question, but I feel like it's almost the
Classic.
one. It's almost the one that spawned the next generation of them.
Definitely.
It won't surprise you since you've seen Pitch Perfect that I also love a romance in a musical. So Bring It On is one. It's a movie I've
Yeah.
probably seen
Mm,
a good ton of times, and I think that I think about that scene when the two of them are brushing their teeth, and
mhm.
they're just in the mirror. It's one shot. They're brushing their teeth and spitting. And I remember thinking, in a movie that's so quick and witted and music, to take the space to allow that nonverbal romance to blossom just felt so romantic to me. And I think that's what I kind of think romance is kind of also is the awkward spaces in between what you say,
Mhm.
because that's where the magic comes. And so that's a scene that's always stuck with me as a brilliant way to progress a relationship without having to talk about it.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that scene. It's
Uh,
so memorable and it's just
Yeah.
so gentle and
Yes. Good word.
playful. It's great. Great
it
pick.
is.
And it's sexy, right? There's their
Yes,
pajamas. I
the
mean,
eyes. Yeah.
yeah.
Eye contact.
The romance is all in the eye
Makes you
contact.
blush.
It's there.
Totally. And when you look into a mirror, you can almost be more easily to look at someone because you're not actually looking them in the eye.
Yeah.
So you can kind of let it flirt a little bit more, kind of way you can kind of flirt more over text sometimes in the real life.
It's so good. So Mercedes and I, we always we did a live and we had to rank our top rom-com queens. So top people that we feel are the queens of rom-com. So obviously we had Julia Roberts, we had Sanaa Lathan, Cameron
Amazing,
Diaz.
amazing.
And I'm curious, can you tell us your top what your just your top rom-com queen on your list?
Uh, Not gonna lie, J.Lo comes to mind because
Definitely.
I just worked with her. But Made in Manhattan is one of my favorites.
Okay.
Monster in Law is one of
Yeah.
my favorites.
Ooh, classic.
And even the backup plan that she was in is a great movie. So she comes to mind because she can do all of it. I feel like she's a queen that way, and I had the great fortune to work with her, and she actually can do all of it. It's
Mhm.
amazing
my
to watch.
goodness.
And I've always loved watching her. So she kind of that's one that jumps to mind.
You're in
Probably
the
if
right
you'd
place.
asked me, yeah, it would have been Julia Roberts would have come to mind, right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Mhm.
We just wrapped up our J.Lo month of rom-coms in
Oh, you
March, so
did.
you're definitely in the right place.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, there's a bunch of good ones.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
100%.
You know what a lot of those women carry in common too, which I think is a real talent that most people don't quite know that it's a talent, is they're all good at physical comedy. They're all good at
Mm.
they're good at pratfalls and awkward walks and
Mhm.
goofy laughs and being uncomfortable and nervous. All those things are actually very physical. And all the women that you just mentioned know how to do that.
That's just my natural being. So I feel cast me in your next
Next.
movie if you like this.
Yeah, yeah. If you want me to trip over something,
Yeah.
it's Kevin. Okay, got it.
Exactly. So we want to talk about Pitch Perfect. And obviously, Mercedes and I, we did an episode on it. We love it. We're huge fans. Anna Kendrick kills it. We love all of the music, everything in it. And I want to know, is there a deleted scene that you really wish you could have included in the final version of the film?
Ooh, these are good questions.
I know we're so good at this.
It's been 10 years, so I have to think.
Mhm.
I'm suddenly like, want to look at the DVD extras. That's how old that movie is. It's actually like, it got DVD extras. I think actually comedies, there were probably a few more jokes that I would have cut, but not full scenes. I think comedies, especially the ones that I particularly admire, and especially now with an audience's attention span, the ones that work best are the ones that are most dense, full of jokes, or the most dense, full of really memorable romance, right? So I think if you're really being honest with yourself and you're thinking, which is what I do, but because I'm come from theater, I really do think about how something's going to play in front of an audience more than I think about people watching it at home. That's maybe slightly old fashioned at this point, but it is fun when something gross or funny or romantic happens and the audience responds, and you want them to be, on the ride. So I've found that every time I cut something, it's made the movie better. So I don't really mourn the loss of it. And if I cut something and I think it's wrong, I put it back in. I
Yeah.
argue and I put it back in and I say it needs to be this way.
You honor your art in that way. I respect that a lot. I do.
Thank you. And the audience too. I mean,
Mhm.
there's also things that I think were hilarious and the audience didn't laugh. And I, I'm enough of a, wanting to get laughs. That's how a director gets their praise, right? It's hearing
Right.
laughs, just like actors do. So it's like, listen, I want the audience to have a great time. I don't want a joke not to hit. And the movie will be better for it if all the jokes hit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for sharing.
This movie's known for the iconic moments and iconic quotes. Do you have a favorite quote or scene?
I love you, awesome nerds. That one,
Yeah,
yeah.
sweet.
It's very sweet, and that's one that, like, to me, in one line, captures both the romance and the comedy of that. The romance of the friendships in that particular scene, and awesome nerds, which is like acknowledging who you are, owning who you are, and also acknowledging that you're outsiders. And so there's a lot of things about that line that really, really jump out. And then, of course, excuse me, which it took me about it took me about 2 years to get that out of my vernacular, and my friends were like, "Okay, calm down."
That is such a classic line. Love it.
Definitely.
So obviously, Jason, Pitch Perfect is not the only movie that you've directed. You also directed Sisters with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. And I'm just curious, when you think of comedies, especially one starring like these two comedy queens, we never think of the hardships that all movie sets have. And so, what are some challenges that you feel like you face when you were creating this film?
For Sisters, it was like I went from, like, working with incredibly talented younger actors to people my own age who were like Lamborghinis of comedy, right?
Yeah.
Thoroughbred, like, know how to improv, know how to say a sketch in front of a live audience at SNL, or to stand alone and be and so I was I realized very quickly that once I was in a room with them that it was like my job to get out of the way, like get them the things they need. Paul Appel was writing jokes on post-its. We had a system where we would add jokes to the fire and just keep it churning. What was difficult about that particular movie is it's basically a party movie at its heart, right? Like
Yeah.
about an hour and 10 minutes. The movie is a party where the house gets destroyed, and which meant that everyone pretty much was in every scene on set every day, and we were getting dirtier and messier. We shot it in sequence so that we could actually just destroy the house, not worry
Yeah.
about continuity. So by the end, everyone was covered in mud. The set smelled horrible.
Mm.
But because they also were there all the time, they had this bonding thing go on. And Tina and Amy are great leaders. Maya Rudolph keeps everybody in stitches. John Leguizamo, who I love, would like do cheerleading whenever it put together. So in some ways, the hardship of making a movie when you have the right people, the
Mhm.
spirited people, can be the very thing that kind of makes you bond. And that movie is a lot about bonding. And so it was one of those things that it felt difficult and kind of sloggy because they were long days and everyone was tired, but that also meant that we bonded all the way through it. It was really fun.
Love it. Oh, that's so beautiful to hear. I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
I want to come on set.
Yeah, that was a
I know.
really great set. It was a really great set.
Yeah.
Sure. The icons of comedy right there.
Mhm.
Also, Tina and Amy know at the time and have known and worked with everyone.
Yeah.
So like we had the inside track on who was going to show up and be like a 100%er, you know? And so we chose well on that movie, and everyone on it was a dream, honestly.
Oh my goodness. So we have to talk about Shotgun Wedding. We already told you we just had J.Lo month. So what can we expect from this movie? What can you tell us about it? I'm so excited.
So excited.
I literally just finished it last week. So
Congrats,
shot it.
first of all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that
That's
I'm having that slight like where am I supposed to go during the day? I love the movie. I'm very proud of it. And I kind of miss watching it because that was another great bonding experience, which I'll tell you about in a minute because it was during COVID. But the movie is, and I wanted to do it because it's more of a blend of genres than everything I've done. So it's got real action sequences. We had the second unit director and the stunt coordinator from the James Bond movies, named Lee Morrison. We had an A+ comedy cast for the comedy, and then there's a complex romance in it, and it's that the couple actually, and this is one of the reasons I liked it, knowing people would probably see it as a rom-com, but the twist on it is that they already are getting married. You start where the most rom-coms end, and then they get cold feet, and these difficult things happen, and then they end up sort of tied together, and they have to rescue the rest of the wedding party, and they're arguing because they're mad at each other. But going is what I was saying earlier, like going through this trauma essentially of this day, that's actually a very funny kind of action and danger, has made them fall back in love with each other, trust each other even more. And so it's actually kind of about how a relationship deepens as opposed to how it progresses for the first time, because they've been together for 5 years.
Yeah.
So that felt new to me. And I and those blended genres, they're really all in there. And it's a blast. I can't wait for people to see it.
We are so excited.
awesome. Yeah.
Mercedes knows this about me. I prefer rom-coms where we get to be in the center of the relationship. I don't like when they don't know that they like each other the entire movie and then get together at the end. I like when they're
Right.
together. You can see inside the relationship. Like I always use Going the Distance as an example with Justin Long and Drew Barrymore. That's a perfect
amazing.
that's a perfect rom-com to me. Like you can just see inside their relationship, see all the intimacies and all the challenges that they go through. So I'm very, very excited for this film.
And it makes you relate to them more, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
a lot of our audience would say, like, I recognize that argument. I've had that argument with my spouse.
Definitely.
And I think that, even though you have these big movie stars, you kind of want to recognize yourself in that.
Absolutely. I'm curious, like as a director and you're starting a new project, are there any like rituals or traditions that you have that you do when you're starting a new project? Anything that's like a habit?
Again, great questions. One thing I do is I go out and buy basically 7 outfits, basically all in the same color, and I just realize I never have to dress myself in the morning. That's one
Yep.
thing. So I pick a
Steve
look.
Jobs mentality. I like it.
Yeah, I pick a look. It's a little
Uniform.
different every time.
Mhm.
That's one ritual. Another ritual is obsess on things, which is bulletin boards, vision boards, visuals, trying to get as many visuals up as I can. I like to be immersed in it. Actually, this is my office, and the walls are actually made of corkboard. So I put
Ooh.
everything up on the walls. It's
love
empty
that.
now because I'm not working on anything. But so I like to just kind of immerse myself in it so that I can trust that when I get there, I don't have to obsess or overthink. I've already kind of done it. So that's a ritual that takes a lot of time, but it's actually really fun.
I love that.
Pre-production. Pre-production is key.
Key. Especially if you want the set to be fun, and you want the
Yeah.
set to be fun, so people are free to be relaxed and be funny and be vulnerable, which is also what you're asking them to do usually in a love story.
Yeah. I think it's so cool just your craft and your attention to detail and everything that you've created. Like, thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm curious, other than Shotgun Wedding, which we are all very excited about, what else do you have upcoming? What else are you excited about? What else are you working on? Can you spill the tea there? Are you allowed to tell us?
I don't have I actually not today, but there's a book
Mhm.
that's going to be announced that I found that I love, and it actually is also a romance that has a time travel element to it, that we're going to work on making into something. And there's another book that I really like, but I don't have what my next project is. in the sense I'm reading a lot, but Shotgun is actually quite different than the other two movies. And
Mhm.
I'd really like to do that thing that directors like to do, which is step a little bit outside of my comfort zone and try something science fiction or a bigger action movie or a spy movie or something like
Mhm.
that. That would still have comic elements to it because I can't really direct anything that's dramatic only. I don't think life works like that.
Mm.
So,
You need the
so I'm reading a
comedy.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, even in the worst moments in life, comedy happens whether you want it to or not.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. Well, Mercedes and I are always available and we're ready for
Yeah,
our close up.
we
So
are
Well,
we're
now that I
very
know, and you know the genre inside and out, you could be like, I'm going to give you vulnerable look number 72 with pratfall number 10.
yes, exactly.
yes, we're ready. We're set.
I love it.
We're
Jason,
excited.
you are amazing. Thank you so much for joining us in the rom-com room. Thank you for sharing all of your insight and everything. And we wish you the best in the future and on all your future projects.
Thanks so much. Well, I had a really fun time with you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I loved this conversation. Thank you.